What stops me from committing to being trans is me being square. What? Like for my body build, I'm just walking square. That doesn't prevent women from being women. That doesn't prevent men from being men. You can be a rectangle. You can be a circle. Women and men come in all shapes and sizes. Like, it doesn't invalidate your gender identity. I get the insecurity coming from it. I get it. I get like the like having to fulfill like the beauty expectations, gender norms and whatnot. But like there are so many people who deny this is happening and whatnot. But like women just get shamed for their bodies all the time. And a lot of times, a lot of women are getting invalidated because they don't fulfill someone's expectations of what women have to look like and whatnot. These people shouldn't prevent you from you living your true self. These patriarchal gender norms and beauty expectations and whatnot, they're harming you and they are holding you back. And on the other hand, cis women experience a lot of shit because of it as well. Cis men get a lot of shit if they don't fulfill like these like gender stereotypes. Oh, you have to go to the gym and work out, you have to big muscles, rah, rah, rah. Otherwise you're a soy boy. Rah. Everybody suffers because of like gender norms and whatnot. But like I get that it's harder if you're trans because you think if you transition, you feel like you don't deserve to put the label woman onto you. You are scared that other people are going to like judge you if you, I don't know, get your legal name changed and whatnot and introduce yourself with like a feminine name. I get it. Like I struggled with this too when I had my legal name changed like a year ago and whatnot. Like my old ID or my current ID, it doesn't look like me right now. And I always feel like ashamed when I have to show someone my ID. Like the picture, it doesn't look like a woman. I was still in this like ugly transitioning stage. This is just like some psychological torture that you like put onto you, and you're preventing yourself from being happy because you think that the result is not going to be better. It's just going to make you more miserable if you put in the effort to go through like transitioning to get like HRT and whatnot, and you think like it's going to be worse because now you're going to live your true self and you stop hiding behind a mask and people are going to like invalidate you and like harm you, and it's just going to be worse. But like in reality, it is such a boost for your mental health that like all the shit that you get is actually like nothing in comparison to what your life was like before you started transitioning. You shouldn't feel like just because you're tall or whatnot, or because your body's proportions and how you imagine a woman has to look like, or your shoulders are broad, you can't get rid of your facial hair and whatnot, or your facial features are masculine and all these things. Like a lot of times I have these insecurities too, where it's like, oh, you know, because I'm tall, people are misgendering me and people will always misgender me because I'm tall. And then I don't get misgendered. And I'm like, well, okay, despite not wearing makeup, despite being tall, despite having broad shoulders, despite dressing in a more unisex way, this stranger still gendered me properly. And that blew my mind. I hyper-focused on like voice training because I thought if I'm streaming, if I'm like in games and whatnot, if I have a feminine and like a passing voice, people are going to gender me correctly because I never experienced that in real life, because I will always have features, masculine traits that will always hold me back. But I get gendered correctly more often in real life than when I'm like streaming, creating content, playing games like Valorant and whatnot. I get gendered correctly more in real life by strangers, even if I don't wear full-on makeup. You realize at some point you actually don't have to put in that much effort into a lot of things, and social media just like skews your perception of what you need to do in order to get gendered correctly. It took me a while to get there, like for sure, and it's also like a confidence thing and whatnot, and me being hesitant to even like go outside because social anxiety and all these things. So I was like hiding away. A lot of times you hyperfixate on certain features, but like a lot of times cis women struggle with these things too. You know, there are cis women who are taller than me, there are cis men who are shorter than me, and they're insecure about their height and whatnot because they think that they are not a real man because they're not 6 feet. You see that like everybody in society kind of has like gender dysphoria in that sense. All these things like gender affirming care and whatnot, most of the things that we have in place were made for cis people. 97% of surgeries performed on minors is performed on cis boys with gynecomastia because boys aren't supposed to have breast tissue, even though it's like really natural. That's why it's like so weird how like this transphobic rhetoric hyperfixates on like gender affirming care being something for just trans people, when in reality cis people have more gender affirming like surgeries and whatnot than we trans people do, and we have to jump through hoops in order to get there, where they can literally just walk into a store and be like, hey, I have low testosterone, I want to get testosterone, and people are like, here you go. Meanwhile, we have to talk to like therapists, we have to talk to multiple doctors. They make it really difficult for us, and I get like some, you know, caution has to be put in place. Sometimes there are waiting lists for like 5 years, 6 years. Meanwhile, for cis people, it's like incredibly easy. It's like also what like annoys me when it comes to HRT causes irreversible changes. We shouldn't let minors go through this because like what if they regret it? What you're basically saying is like no cis kid should go through puberty either because it causes irreversible changes. But like that's not what you're saying. You just assume that like every cis boy knows that they're a cis boy, but every trans boy needs to prove that they're actually a trans boy. But like if a cis kid can know they're cis, then a trans kid can know they are trans. They should be able to go through the puberty that aligns with their gender identity and not be forced into irreversible changes that they are going to feel dysphoric about. That's like the hypocrisy. It's like, oh, you don't want to give them puberty blockers so they can work with experts and figure themselves out. No, you want to force them through a puberty that doesn't align with their gender identity, which is not only causing irreversible changes to their body, but it's also causing like mental health issues for them because of gender dysphoria. But you're okay with that. You don't care about that. You are just like too worried that like, I don't know, 1% of the 0.1% of trans kids who go on puberty blockers and HRT and whatnot are going to regret it later on. That's what you're worried about. But like all these 99 other percent, them, I guess, cause them irreversible changes and mental health issues. It's like making us out to be like these confused children, confused adults who just don't know what they are doing, and eventually we are going to wake up and realize that we made a terrible mistake. Even though the data, like our own personal experiences, completely contradicts that. Like, why should we ban something that benefits 99% of the people who do it just because of the 1%? And even with like transitioning, there are so many like stages that you have to go through. Nobody is saying that, hey, you know, like, oh, this kid, this 12-year-old, like, oh, give them bottom surgery right away. No, like you would do that probably not even with 18. It would probably look more like this 12-year-old's gender identity doesn't align with their assigned gender at birth. We should probably talk to experts with them, pediatricians, therapists, and whatnot. You work through these things, and in the meantime, you get puberty blockers so you don't cause irreversible changes. And then after like, I don't know, a year or something, then they should get either put on HRT, or maybe they figured out, hey, actually my gender identity aligns with my assigned gender at birth. So I'm going to stop taking puberty blockers and I'm going through my like biological puberty. If at any point they figure out, hey, actually I made a mistake, this doesn't feel right for me either, they can stop taking HRT. You know, it's not a switch. It's not like an immediate thing. There are points that you can just like stop. That's why there's like irreversible harm done to you. It's not like immediate. It is like a slow process because puberty doesn't, like, it's not a snap with your finger. It literally takes, I don't know, 10 years or something. Transitioning at 16, 18 made me so depressed. I repressed it until a few months from turning 26. When I turned 18, I thought it was too late for me.